Thank you very much, Lisa. Welcome everybody to the 2024 State of Industrial Networking Report. My name is Keith Higgins. I'm the Director of Marketing here at Cisco for our Industrial IoT business, and I'm thrilled to be joined today by Samuel Pasquier, our Vice President of Product Management for Industrial IoT. Samuel leads the Industrial IoT business in total, including the strategy and direction of the portfolio across a range of industries. So Samuel, it's great to have you here with us today. As you recently marked your 20th anniversary with the company. So really happy to have your experience going through this report with the audience.
Thank you, Chris. And I would say I'm very excited to share the content of this report and give a little bit of insight and color on that. Look, the reception have been fantastic. We've got amazing amount of feedback. So this is very exciting, but at the same time, I would say we feel the pressure, because we need to raise the bar for next year, and it sounds like it's something that people were looking for. Very exciting to see. So maybe, Keith, tell us a little bit more. What is this report about, and what have we done exactly, right?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you for that. It's always exciting to hear from customers, and when you get a chance to hear from 1,000 at once, it really produces a lot of insight. So what we try to do here at Cisco is take an outside-in view and listen to what's happening in the industry as best we can. And this was a great vehicle to do that. With so much change and investment that we're seeing in the industrial networking space, we were hoping just to take a pulse globally across a number of industries about what our customers were thinking in terms of their strategies and investment priorities and how they're viewing things. And one of the goals of this is a lot of our customers are interested in insights from their peers. So we've had a lot of downloads of this report from customers just simply wanting to know what their peers were doing, thinking, planning, strategizing, and that was another benefit of this report. We partnered with a third party, Sapio Research, to ensure the highest integrity of the report. It was a double-blind study, so all the data that you're seeing today came from a very independent lens. And the survey, as you mentioned, had an overwhelming response. We had 1,000 professionals respond to the report. It crossed about 17 countries and 20 industry sectors. So we're very excited to share what they had to say. And with that, we'll go to the executive summary on the next slide and jump right in. What we tried to do here really was just to jump into the biggest core three themes that we saw. We know a lot of folks are worried about OT cybersecurity and compliance. We're seeing a lot more interest in the integration of IT and OT departments working closer together. And of course, the AI is going to show up, right? It's going to show up everywhere. And we're going to dig into that a little bit later in the presentation as to how that is applying to the industrial segment. But, Samuel, with all the time you spend with customers, really interested in how this first slide resonates with what you hear from them.
Well, first, looking at security being shown as so strong is not very surprising. The reality, we live in a technology world where technology is advancing very, very quickly. But the challenge that our customers have and the people we've talked to have in industrial environments is that they have to deal with legacy system. So you're into a situation where more and more technology coming at them with legacy systems that they need to maintain and they need to prolong and extend the life, and all of that, with more and more devices that are also being connected. So it's really, really challenging for people in those space, and I'm not surprised that that's top of mind. And when you look at that, and you add on top of that, all the compliance and regulation happening all around the world. Just very recently, I'm sure we have some audience, people from Europe. We have NIS2. With NIS2. Not only people will have to show compliance and show report for compliance, but what is pretty amazing is now they will face fines and financial penalties if they are not compliant. So obviously, there's one thing to not being secure, and there's another thing that to not to be compliant and have to pay a fine for it. So all of that make it very, very top of mind for our customer. And I would say, when we go further is IT and OT team working independent, also that's clearly a challenge for our customer because there is a limited workforce available on site. So how they have to deal with that is also something that I've heard a lot talking to customer. And last but not the least, AI. Look, everyone is talking about AI. There is definitely a lot of hype, but I also strongly believe that in the industrial world, there is some real AI use cases that have been, I would say, put in production for a few years. And we are seeing a new phase that is all around scaling AI. And then the question around AI infrastructure in their environment to scale those AI use cases is top of mind. So not a lot of surprise here in what we saw in this report.
Yeah, fantastic. Thank you, Samuel. As we look at the next slide, just as much as we like to hear outside in from our customers, one of the things we wanted to do in the survey is to understand outside in from an external perspective, what the challenges our customers see. And you would think you'd see the usual suspects here, and we do: supply chain disruption, pandemic, inflation, et cetera. But Samuel, one of the things that jumped up, and you just mentioned it a second ago, right? The number one spot was the shortage of skilled workforce. How does that play into this whole equation?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a lot of things that are happening here. I think the first thing is uh, look, people are not finding, I mean, our customer and people in the initial space are not finding people with the right skill. And it's not like, I don't want to be misleading, I don't want to, it's not a negative in a way, but if you look into industrial networking and the infrastructure by itself, it changed significantly over the years. What used to be good enough to connect a few assets, as you grow and you grow organically, you realize that, well, you need to put more structure, you need to put more organization, you need to put more security. And to do that, you need to have the skills, and it's very hard, to find the unicorn. They exist, but they are rare, right? To find people who can not only understand the industrial system, understand the industrial automation, or understand the distribution of electricity if you're a utility, but at the same time, you need people who have enough expertise in security system to be able to stitch all of that together. And that's really the challenge that we have is, the market is evolving, and you need to be able to take the worker and develop those new skill sets. So that's why it's a challenge. And the collaboration between this IIoT is more and more something a topic that we see happening. And given, if we look historically, it's been very, very separated. You had OT on one side, you had IT on the other side, you have a firewall in between. And I think that those lines are slightly starting to move at different speed. Different industry move different role, and after depending on the position of the customers themselves. Some of them are more leading edge than some others, and I think that's all the things that are happening right now. So definitely, this shortage of skilled resources, I think, is real, and that's something that, as an industry, you need to find a way to address for the customer to continue to benefit from the benefits of the technology, right?
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. If we jump to the next slide, it's for those of you in the U.S., we just started the National Football League season, and one of the famous football movies had a line called "Show me the money." And what we're seeing right now in operational technology and operational networks is a lot of investment, and we've seen a lot of research that has cited this increase, most recently from companies like ARC and Omdia, where I will shamelessly plug that Cisco is ranked number one as a market leader. But most importantly, 2/3 of the companies that we talk to are increasing their spending in industrial networking. And Samuel, I think the question a lot of people would like to hear from you on is what's driving this surge in investment?
I think I have to call you Jerry Maguire now, Keith. So show me the money. Yeah, so people are definitely increasing investment in OT, and at the end is, look, when you look at the role of a CIO is all about bringing innovation, bringing technology, and how technology can be used to improve the business. And what's happening on the other side is a plant manager wants to produce better quality, on time, on cost, and so on. So there is a need, and people realize that, well, we can use the technology to improve the efficiency, meaning minimize the downtime. We can use the technology to get more data. So with more data, we can get a better quality of the product. We can use technology to automate. We mentioned just before skill shortage. Well, if you have less people, or if you don't have people to be able to do that, you need to be able to automate things. There is also a lot of need on how to use technology to be more sustainable. It's still amazing to see that a lot of industry are trying to reduce their carbon footprint and trying to reduce the energy consumption. The cost of energy has skyrocketed over the last few years, so this is something that is top of mind. And all in all, people realize that, well, if they increase their investment in those OT infrastructure, well, they can leverage the technology to improve their business. So I think that's really what's happening. So it's a lot of things that's happening behind, but people are ready to harvest the power of technology.
Yeah, thank you, Samuel. And before we leave the slide, we've all looked at this deck a lot of times. I didn't realize the two technicians standing on the top of the windmill, and it's dawning on me that might not be a job for me. I didn't notice that until just now.
In marketing case, you're better fit in marketing.
If we go to the next slide, I think from a spending perspective, we see quite a bit of diversity in where those dollars are going. And I think, the question that probably relays back to where we started this conversation and are highlighted at the top is, maybe how do you make the AI and the cyber spend priorities above the others here?
Yeah, I will take one clear example. So people are investing more in AI-enabled device. And I'll take one example that was, for me, very eye-opening. If you go and visit a car manufacturer, you went 10 years ago, you went 5 years ago, and you go now, what you realize is anytime they have a quality issue on the line, the first, I would say, reaction or the go-to tools to try to go and fix those quality issues will be to put a camera. You can put a 4K cameras, those are becoming pretty, I would say, affordable, and you can take picture, you can do machine learning, you can detect defect, you can really control the quality. And that's a trend that we have definitely see. So the ability to say, well, quality problem, put a camera, get vision, get photo, and do analytics on top of that. Just to give you an idea, what I've heard from one of our Detroit manufacturer, they increase the number of camera on their plant by 40x, and those cameras are used for industrial automation. So that's really what we are talking about. It's an AI use case, is leveraging visual inspection to be able to improve the quality and the yield that they have in their factory. So not a surprise, and I'm talking the example of manufacturing, but we have seen that going, in all industries that we have been covering. And obviously, cybersecurity, it goes on to end. You connect more assets, your attack surface is increasing, while you need to be able to invest to be able to protect those assets, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As we go to the next slide, I think cyber came out so strong in this report, and we see it in a number of these slides. But I think one of the things that was on this slide that I think is probably a little bit underrated is the second challenge around standardization and the impact that has on securing industrial infrastructure. Be interested in how you would sort of interpret that second bar there on standardization.
Yeah, the thing about standardization is very interesting. If we look even utility or manufacturing or even in the transportation, you have so many old, or I should say legacy protocol, plain text protocol that are sometimes proprietary protocol for a pinpoint solution, and those have been spreading, and our customers are facing with a lot of those technology from multiple vendors that they have to support on their infrastructure, and that being very painful. And as they increase digitization, so as increase the need to get the data out of their infrastructure to the cloud or to their data center, those legacy protocols may not really work. I'll give you an example. You go in utilities, you will find protocols that are really point-to-point, so one device talking to one server, and that's it. Now you put that in a more complex architecture where you have way more connectivity, then you need to have the functionalities, the standard to be able to do that, to scale that, right? It cannot be point-to-point anymore. So this mix of proprietary solution with new technology is definitely a real challenge for our customer, and that's again where you need IT and OT working together, because OT team will understand those legacy protocol and what they are used for. IT might not, and you need the two to be working end to end. For us, what we have been doing at Cisco to try to help is first, you're not going to be able to standardize everything overnight. There's way too much legacy, way too much install base today that the customer are not going to move. So it's more about providing blueprint on how you do things. So we invest a lot in what we call Cisco validated design to take the use case, take the technology, take those legacy protocol, and show how they can work in a more modern structure architecture. That's what we are doing, and those blueprints, the goal is to de-risk the deployment for our customer. And if anyone is interested, we have a lot of information available on cisco.com/go/IoT, where you can find an example of those CVDs that we have done per industry, where we do testing specific to the industry, right?
Yeah, and sort of tying into standardization, just one last question maybe on this slide, the third row we see there around multiple vendors, point solutions. We hear a lot from customers about the complexity and cost that adds, swivel chair management right across different systems, and how do you start the defragmentation process of these industrial networks? Maybe you could shed some light on that as well.
Yeah, so I've been in that role for 9 years now. For the last 9 years, I've been heavily involved in industrial network. And I will tell you, 9 years ago, there was still, when you go to a plant, people were buying an automation system and the network was built in. And over the years, we have seen things being dissociated, disaggregated, where the network is an element in an RFP and the industrial automation is another one. I think that's what people are trying to look for. They are trying to move out of a proprietary end-to-end solution to something that is a little bit more open. And truth be told, at Cisco, we have been into the networking industry for 40 years. And that's the story. That's why it works. Is about being open, being standard-based, being able to carry more than one use case into one infrastructure. So that's really what we start to see. I mean, I think it's more like starting to see. I think what is on motion, there's a lot of inertia and things will evolve. We have seen that into the IT industry. That will happen in the rest of the world, right? Where the network is the fundamental infrastructure and you can enable different use cases and more use cases into one networking communication infrastructure.
Right. Perfect. Thank you. As we move into the next slide, I think the one thing that jumps out here is the dramatic jump in the importance of cybersecurity. And we've talked about, I think, all the reasons why it's important. But why now? Why are we seeing this inflection point or this kind of big step up year over year in terms of the cyber piece?
Yeah, well, I think there is a lot of customers that feel the urgency. Unfortunately, I would say just when you watch the news, you watch what's happening in the world right now. There is a lot of risk, and people are very concerned from a geopolitical standpoint, and people are very concerned to be able to sustain their production and sustain their operation, especially if you have utilities. Even when you read, there's a lot of news on that topic of plants that are being attacked by ransomware or malware. You have utilities that are being impacted and where they may lose control of their infrastructure. So this is real. This is happening, and I think it just with what's happening in the news right now, I think people are just being more aware of it. That is not, I would say, it's not in the movie only. This is really happening, and it's time to act. It's time to do something if you want to be able to de-risk your business, right? And that's really what we see. So for us, we have been in that space for quite some time as well. Into the OT security, we've done a lot of work. We really feel about security like onions, it's layer of security. And we have been very happy. We answered recently a Forrester Wave report when we have been marked as a leader, and that was before our Splunk acquisition. But that's really how we take all those layers of the onions to increase the security for our customer, right? So that's another thing where this audience can go and check what we can do on that front.
Yeah, perfect. Thank you. Well, as we go into the next slide, this is really the first of three. And by the way, I'll point out apparently another energy worker is not afraid of heights. This is the first of three of our customer-specific examples, and appreciate you, Samuel, walking us through these.
Yes, so definitely you stay in marketing in case you don't go in the bucket truck. But look, this is a CPFL. So CPFL is a pretty significant utility in Brazil. They connect more than 10 million people. So you can imagine when the electricity stop for 10 million people, this is not good, right? So very critical for them. And what they are really trying to do is really trying to protect their infrastructure because they need to comply with the new regulation in place in Brazil. And what they realize is they do not have a lot of visibility on where their asset and where where things are connected within their infrastructure. I know it may be hard to believe, but that's the truth, especially when you have to cover, like imagine a full country or full state, right? We are talking about very widespread distribution network for the electricity. So the solution that we had was really they redesigned the architecture based on our CVD that we just talked about for substation. They connected more than 700 substations with or Catalyst IE 3400 and IE 9300 running CyberVision. And with that, really, the benefits for them was their ability, believe it or not, they were able to find 20 malware as soon as they started the deployment of CyberVision on those ruggedized switches. That is pretty significant. And, actually, I'm very grateful that CPFR is willing to be talking about it because I think it's a lot of people are in that situation, they just don't talk about it. So I think that's the case on, when you are lacking visibility, things can be hidden and can still be in your infrastructure. So they gain full visibility. They also gain real-time alert in their SEM system through CyberVision, feeding that into this SEM, right? So it's a pretty good story for CPFL, and we are very grateful that they decided to pick our technology to do that. But that should just show an example of, investing into the infrastructure, in visibility, you can see things that after help you to show that you be compliant with the regulation in place in the country.
Yeah, terrific. Thank you. The next topic, I think, personally, I don't think there's been so much talked about since digital transformation in terms of benefits, of upside, of a new movement, if you will, and that's bringing IT and OT closer together, more collaboration. There seems to be so much promise there, operational promise and many other pieces, but we still see quite a bit of independent operating, and just curious as to how you read that.
Yeah, look, there is a long history of IT and OT being different, and even I would say it's a different culture. And in the past, or even for some customers today, the way they collaborate is when there is a network outage and when there is a problem. That's when they talk to each other, and we believe that's not enough. It's pretty. That was a surprise to me, by the way, to see that 41% still see IT and OT operating independently. I will be curious to see once we redo it next year how this number is going to evolve. My fear when I talk to customers is they are working more and more together because our customers understand that if they want to gain in efficiency, into security, and really to be able to handle the growth that they have in connected asset into their initial environment, they need IT to be involved. So this one was a surprise, but if I had to make a bet, Keith, I think that number will go down over the years, and we will see more and more the team working together, right?
Yeah, I think that makes total sense, and just maybe one follow-on question to that one, as we say on the slide, if we may, is is there a step one, or is there a good way for industrial organizations to begin to improve this collaboration that might, this can be a little daunting maybe for some folks. Is there some good news there as to how to get started?
Yeah, I think the thing is, if you have a completely different architecture, different approach, different platform between the IT side and the OT side, that's why it becomes complicated to work together. And I think having a unified platform approach between IT and OT, being a common and jointly designed architecture and commonality of the architecture, I think that's why it can help. And for us, at Cisco, we believe strongly in that. Let's be true here. We believe that the value that we bring on the IT side can be exposed to the OT side, and we believe that our customer can leverage their knowledge. Back to the skill shortage that we discussed, the knowledge in IT can be used to manage and help operate on the OT side. So we are investing a lot into a commonality of tools, the Catalyst Center, SD1, to be able to extend the use of those tools beyond the IT space to the OT space. So today, we are very proud to see we have quite a significant number of manufacturing customers today deploying Catalyst Center on the plant floor to be able to implement things like macro segmentation for security and things like that. So that's really where I say where you need to start is start to think about what would be your common architecture to be able to connect all those assets together.
Yeah, perfect. And well, as we go to the next slide to a number of the things that you just highlighted, what was great about this response was that people were allowed to pick, multiple benefits that they saw as a result of better OT IT alignments. But as you look down this list, are there any beyond security that stand out to you that you hear more and more from customers?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's still important to call out that 39% believe that in improved cybersecurity. I would have thought that would have been more. So there's still a room for improvement here again, right? I think we will see that in the next few years. I think for me, the thing that is also very interesting is, the improve cost and resource efficiency at 32%, the number two. That's very telling. At Cisco Live in July, I was talking with this customer. Argos is a cement manufacturer, and cement manufacturing is very power hungry, and for them, actually, one of the big priority is to reduce power consumption of their kiln, so they can actually have significant saving. So that I think is definitely something where our customer once again can value the power of technology to be able to improve that. In the case of Argos, they were able to use get data from their kiln, build a model using our Splunk machine learning capabilities, and being able to optimize based on the temperature of the ingredient they put in the kiln, how strong they need to run the kiln, and they had significant saving in energy consumption, right? So I think that would be the one that I think is real and has very strong legs, and that we'll continue to see in the next future, right?
Yeah, fantastic. Well, we come to the second one of our customer highlights, and I think so much happening in smart transportation and intelligent traffic. I know there'll be a lot of interest in this one, Samuel, as you walk through it.
Yeah, I mean, so yet another industry, transportation side, fascinating use case over there. The example is from Gwinnett County, and for maybe the non-American person on the call, it's a county in Georgia, not too far from Atlanta. And what they have, just to put some context, there are more than 100,000 signs and more than 750 traffic signals that they need to interconnect across 2,650 miles, right? So pretty significant. And when we talk about this IT, OT working together, and the challenge was how to operate that, how to provision, how to diagnose, how to being sure the infrastructure is working with a limited number of people available. Right? And what they've done is they have really standardized on the Cisco industrial IoT portfolio. They standardize on our CVD for transportation. They use Cisco Catalyst Center to be able to manage the infrastructure. So the whole idea is the result is they could really share resources between IT and OT. They could streamline their network operation and really significantly improve traffic visibility into their traffic system, right? And as well, that is not on this slide, but also all the remote operation. When you have a problem, instead of dispatching a truck, then now you can have the right tool to be able to connect remotely to the asset to do investigation and troubleshooting. So that's the kind of thing of benefits. But for them, it was all about scaling, leveraging the knowledge that they already have on Catalyst Center in their IT side, right? So extending IT to help OT, that was really the story behind this customer case study.
Yeah, fantastic. As we go to the next slide, one of the things that jumped out was the amount of attention the C-suite is now paying to some of these initiatives we've been talking about, in particular IT, OT integration. If you had to maybe summarize a little bit for the audience, what has prompted a lot of the things we've been talking about to get to the C-suite, just welcome your color on that.
Yeah, I think the idea is really look, I mean, everyone realizes once again that IT and OT need to work together. You need both, and you need them to partner together. And at Cisco, we have been in the networking industry for 40 years. We have been in the OT industry or actually serving the OT industry for 20 years, building ruggedized product. We've learned a lot, and we have seen the benefits of those two things working together. So for us, it's really about how do we keep add capabilities and functionality to our product to serve the cause. Recently we have done things like cyber to provide visibility. We've done integration with our secure firewall to be able to do segmentation, and all of that. I mean, I think it's foolish to think OT can do it by themselves because they will not have the skill set, and they are very knowledgeable from other things, but they will need IT. And I think that's why people start to realize that those two teams need to be working closer together, and that's what we're going to see in the future, right? And personally, I've seen that happening. When I see the 84% agree that there is growing influence of IT in decision making. 9 years ago, I was going to Cisco Live, and Cisco Live, our audience is mostly IT people. That's where we come from. And when I was talking to industrial customers at Cisco Live, mostly IT people, they were barely knew their counterpart on the OT side, on the operation side. You go through the years. Now, when we go and meet customers at Cisco Live or IT customers, they're all at the table to make decisions for their industrial network. So I think the market has been evolving and the trend is ongoing, and it's I would say there is a lot of inertia there, and it will move, it will go. It's I like to say it's the writing is on the walls. Maybe I'm wrong, but I think there is a lot of things, and I'm glad to see that people actually agree with that. Right?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Well, now we get to the fun part in AI, and I think there's a lot of areas of the world today where it's a top of mind, emerging technologies. But as it relates to specifically to industrial networks, how do you explain maybe what your thoughts are there?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, look, like I mentioned the camera in the factory. I mentioned the idea of improving overall efficiency and getting down to problem faster and improving quality. I think what it really allows is AI allow to accelerate things tremendously, and there's a lot of use case on that. The other thing, I like the example of Argos. Like I mentioned, they were able to get data to improve the efficiency of their kiln, to fabric cement. Just to give you an idea, they went from a situation where without AI, they need to have a guy who's going to take in a bucket, the concrete before it goes to the kiln to analyze it based on humidity and so on, to predict the quality of the final product. And to test the quality, they had to literally build cube of concrete, let it dry for a month to test how solid it is. And I'm not a cement expert. But now with AI, what they can do is they can get this data that they accumulate over the years. They can get the data real time, live, and completely accelerate all what should be the outcome if you are doing a test with the product that has this characteristic. So that's the kind of thing that we are saying. It's really accelerating how you can predict what the quality level will be of your product that you are manufacturing instead of having to go through the regular process. And I think people are seeing that this is happening, and that's why we see investment, and we see a lot of people focusing on it and looking at it. It's fascinating what can be done, and it works. And that's why people are going to be investing into that, right?
Absolutely, and I think it ties well into the next slide, which is, historically, a lot of OT data without machine learning and AI models was not leveraged fully. It was put into historians, it was thrown away in some cases, and now that data suddenly is becoming very valuable to the entire, AI and ML world. But maybe you could elaborate a little bit on that trend and how it's growing.
Yeah, I think what we see is all those AI use cases will have tremendous impact on their initial network infrastructure. I talk about the camera, so more camera, more traffic, more increase in bandwidth that you're going to see in industrial network. I talk about Argos, it's about more having real-time data to do things. So the latency will matter, how fast can you react to things, right? Uh, and I think what we are going to start to see with customer is that if they want to enable all the different use cases, once again, they have to go back to a unified structure and the right network architecture to be able to do that, right? What used to work, and I joke very often that, I've been visiting customer in the past, in the factory, they were seeing the network as the switch. They call it a junction box. It's just you connect, and you get connectivity like electricity. That works when you have low bandwidth, low requirement, but as those AI use cases are going to come and are going to require more bandwidth, more density, then you will have to structure more, because this is not going to, what used to work will not scale. And that's really what will happen. So our customers are definitely, as you can see, they have real use case on where AI can be used. Those implications into the IT and networking infrastructure are real, and people have to get ready for that, right?
Yeah, perfect. And it's a great lead into the next slide when you talk about real world AI use cases with our final customer example here with Northvolt.
Yeah, this is a fascinating example, So the real challenge of Northvolt is a EV battery manufacturer from Sweden, Europe, is the biggest in Europe. And their goal is very simple. They want to build the best battery in the world. That's their objective. And they need to do that, but at the same time, they are sitting on a rocket ship, meaning the demand is exploding, and they have to scale and automate. So they've been planning for that on how they can scale their deployment, scale their plant in a quick way with a quick turnaround, right? So right now, there is a little bit of volatility in the markets for sure, but nonetheless, they are being ready for that, right? And here's what they have done is, for them, they have used, again, they standardized on our industrial portfolio. They standardized on our Catalyst Center to be able to have cookie cutter kind of example and configuration to be able to replicate their infrastructure. And what was very important for them, and they've been very public about it, is to make sure their architecture is very, from plant to plant, they have a lot of similarities, so it makes it easier for them to operate. And what they achieved for that is, look, they've been able to collect more than 10,000 data points per cell that they manufacture, and they've been able to create a digital twin of each battery that they build. This is pretty, mind-blowing. And when we were talking just recently about the impact of AI into the networking infrastructure, you can imagine if you're going to start to connect and collect 10,000 data points of data per item that you manufacture, you need to have the infrastructure to be able to do that. So that's really the key. And with this data, they can do optimization, they can improve the quality, they can do model. That is fantastic. And with the Cisco infrastructure and Catalyst Center, they have been really able to save time into how they replicate, how they deploy a new infrastructure, a new plant, right? A new machine, a new plant, repeat the process, repeat the architecture. So there is a lot of commonality and help them to operate on a day-to-day better, right?
That's perfect. So, on this near to last slide, next, I think, the best thing from this report that I've seen is how intertwined these priorities are: the secure networking priority, the IIoT integration priority, and the AI priority. And we've seen the security and OT IT integration story, and here again another intertwining of AI with IIoT integration improvements. And Samuel, it'd be great to understand your view on how AI will accelerate and improve IIoT integration.
Well, I think the thing is, like for us, like we at Cisco, we've done a very significant investment this year with the Splunk acquisition, and the reason we wanted to acquire Splunk is has the ability to collect the data and has a lot of AI capabilities, and that's one of the tools that in the toolbox to be able to accelerate this collaboration, right? You can merge the OT data with the IT data, all of that into one place, and do very powerful report. So that's really how I see that AI and the ability to correlate the data between the IT side and the OT side to be able to do better decision. And that can be used for security, but that can also be used for quality assessment and deciding how you want to build your better product, right?
Yeah, terrific. Well, one of the things we did in this survey is we gambled a little bit by asking customers who they thought was closest to them as a partner and who they named as a customer that they or a partner they'd like to be closer to. And we put ourselves up in against some of the largest global infrastructure providers in the world, and you can see the results. And Samuel, I'll ask you to maybe elaborate on what this really means from a customer perspective.
Well, I think it's a trust factor. So first, I would say we are very pleased and grateful again about seeing those results. I think it's to some degree it's flattering, but I think the reason as well, it's like I mentioned, we have been in this business. We have been investing into the initial side for the last 20 plus years now, a little bit more than 20 years. So I would say we have a lot of scars. We have learned a lot. And when you are in a business for 20 years, you don't make the same mistake twice. You try to learn. And I think that's what we have done. And I believe that maybe a reason why we see people now slightly showing that they want to partner with us. That's one aspect, so this trust factor. The second one, I think, is really back to the trend that we discussed many times today about this IT and OT partnering together and need to be closer. And at the end, we are the only big IT vendor that have been investing for 20 years in the initial network. And we have built a portfolio. I'm biased and product manager, but I think we've built a decent portfolio to help our customer to talk about this unified platform architecture and initial network, right?
Yeah, terrific. Thank you. So we'll go to the next slide, and what I'll simply say here is the takeaways I think are pretty obvious at this point, right? Cybersecurity is a big deal. There's a lot of new regulations. There's a lot of exposed new attack surface with legacy connected devices and operational networks. So that's gotten a lot of attention for the right reasons, I think, from a lot of folks. The benefits of IIoT working more collaboratively, whether it's helping with labor shortage or operational simplicity or reduced costs, well documented. So a lot of people spending time there. And then, of course, having a foundation that is ready for all the high value AI use cases is a really big priority for a lot of our customers. So we'll stop there with the survey. And we'll want to make sure we leave plenty of time. I think we're right at about 9:45 for the Q&A. So if that's next on our list, we'll jump to that slide. We also, in this slide, have the QR code for the report itself. So please, please feel free to download that. We have some questions that have come in from the audience. Forgive me if I don't get to yours. I'm going to try to do them based on what's come in and what seems to be additive to today's section. And the first one that I see, which I think is interesting, is as companies look to refresh their industrial network infrastructure, this concept of embedded security has really become a popular approach. And Samuel, just ask for your views on maybe explaining that to the audience and the benefits of that.
Yeah, I think the way we thought about it at Cisco is, so first you need to connect asset no matter what, right? That's step one. So as you connect your asset, you have a device that is between the asset and the rest of the world. And what we decided to do is really leverage the footprint that we have on this device to be able to run sensor, to run enforcement and gateway for security measure. So as a sensor, we have things like cyber vision. We can detect things, we can get more information. We can send this information, this sensor, to a Catalyst Center, to ICE, to a Cisco secure firewall. And after, we can act on policy. So ICE or Identity Service Engine can go and tell us to block traffic and do things like that. So we have capabilities in hardware to be able to block the traffic, redirect the traffic, do things like to do the enforcement, right? So that's really what we mean by embedded security is we are not only connecting, the box that we use to connect, the product that we use to connect can sense, notify, inform the rest of the infrastructure, and enforce the policies that you want, right? That's really what we have in mind.
Yeah, perfect. One of the other questions came in, and I think there's so much technology that we've talked about, right? IT and OT and cyber and AI, but the human element continues to be a big focus of folks, and this concept of the labor shortage that's being faced. And is there anything else you'd like to add, on that topic and some of the ways to help solve that growing and very large problem?
Yeah, I think, look, there's definitely a need to leverage automation to combat that. I mean, that's step one, and we talk a little bit about it. But I think there is also a need to upskilling and investing in the workforce development. I think that's definitely something that needs to happen. We're not going to be able to escape it. From a Cisco standpoint, what we have done is, we've been working a lot to do innovation training and really working with university and students to really help to train professional to handle the technology. We also open a curriculum with NetAcad or Network Academy to cover OT skill set and what does it mean to work in an industrial environment. So that's the kind of thing that we can do. But there is definitely a need to upskill and to do some workforce development here. Automation, as much as I would like to say, automation will solve everything. There's still shortage. Or, I would say it's a good career path. If anyone is, we have any in the audience that are in school, I think that's a good career. There will definitely be tons of opportunity in the future for that, right?
Right, perfect. So there's a question from someone who says they're in the transportation industry, but this might be relevant. We've seen a lot of industry representation in the attendees. Any specific capabilities we should be looking for specific to the transportation industry, and you might be able to broaden the answer to that to include, utilities or manufacturing, or like what are the industry specific things that customers should be expecting and looking for?
Well, I think the main thing, maybe taking a broader approach to the question, each industry have their own compliance and regulation, and that can be very, I would say, time consuming to go through that and very specific. So I think that's the first thing that they need to consider. Make sure you can answer and be compliant with the different regulations that you have. That's number one. For us, I mean, that's clearly a big focus for us, and that's something we make sure that we answer most of the standard industry compliance, things like TSA mandate for rail, transit aviation. I mean, we have NIS2, CISA. I mean, NIS2 is more generic, but we have even now TMMC coming in manufacturing in US. So there's a lot of things that needs to happen on that. And after, maybe to answer more on, for our customer, what we have seen a lot is, so again, transportation, it's broad. It can be a lot of different things. I like to talk about, for example, the roadways, infrastructure, traffic intersection signaling and things like that. I think it's really about standardizing in the infrastructure once again. Once you have several thousand of traffic light to connect, you need to have an infrastructure, an architecture that's really cookie cutter. So you cannot do a one-off. So you can do automation. So that's really also the best advice I would give in that space, right?
Perfect. Well, I think that brings us to the last slide. And what we'd like to do here, I think, is to, first of all, make sure everyone knows where we'll be globally with our Cisco Live events, and that's listed on the left. We certainly hope you've found today's session informative, and hopefully all came away learning a little bit. And Samuel, I'll ask for any final thoughts from you on this. And there's also one question that you'll see, I think, as an attendee, as to whether you'd like to learn a little bit about what peers in your industry have done to transform their industrial networks for better business outcomes and better performance. And so if you'd like to have that conversation, please just mark yes, and we'll make sure we'll get you in touch with the right folks. And with that, Samuel, I'll ask for your wrap up.
Yeah, I mean, once again, thank you, Keith, and your team for the people who work on this report. It was a first for us, and it was a lot of good learning. I'm not sure we did justice to this report, Keith, today. There is a full document. I encourage everyone to download it and print it and read it. There is way more information than what we could cover in a 40-minute discussion. So please download it and go through it. The thing for us is, considering once again the reception, we will do another one next year, and I think it will be very interesting to contrast the finding of this year versus next year and see how things are evolving, so we can get the pulse on that. To continue the discussion, we have our Cisco Live event where we have been having what we call industrial summit, where we invite industrial customers to come and talk to each other. This has been very successful with a lot of good feedback, so we are continuing on that journey. We are going to be in Australia, Cisco Live Melbourne in November, in Amsterdam in February, and in San Diego in June. So if you are anywhere close to those places, feel free to join us and participate. The goal is for you to meet with peers from your industry and exchange and share best practice and what we have done, the trends. And it's a good way to network within a similar industry. That's what I can say. And with that, I want to say thank you to everyone. Keith, any final word?
No, that's it. Thank you so much. And for those of you that follow us on LinkedIn, we provide a lot of these updates on a daily and weekly basis. So please, if you don't, look us up there. And that's a good place to see all the latest insights as this is an example. And we'll continue to try to produce these, share these, get your feedback. We'll look at the questions that we were not able to answer today. And if there's anything burning, as Samuel mentioned, please contact us, and we're happy to help have the conversation. So thank you all so very much for spending your time with us today. I know it's valuable, and we look forward to connecting with all of you in the future.